Breakfast is supposed to be the most important meal of the day. But what if your morning coffee and muffin are hiding mold, chemicals, and shortcuts? Today on Frugal Elder, we're pulling back the curtain on 10 popular fast food chains serving up more regret than nutrition. Stick around, because what we found might make you rethink your next drive-thru stop. And before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss more eye-opening food exposés. Dunkin, the fresh. That's anything but. Dunkin loves to sell itself as the cheerful fuel that powers your day. The commercials say America runs on Dunkin, but let's be honest, it's really running on microwaves, sugar, and shortcuts. The eggs in your breakfast sandwich? They never saw a shell. They come sealed in plastic pouches, steamed into rubbery shapes, and slapped on a bun like it's no big deal. Ever smelled burnt egg fused to melted plastic? That's what happens when those pouches get overheated. And those famous donuts? Not fresh. They're frozen, shipped in bulk, and thawed overnight. Or worse, zapped in batches in the microwave. One ex-employee admitted they were told to scrape mold off donuts, reglaze them, and sell them anyway. Another said muffins often came straight from the freezer, microwaved 6 at a time, and tossed on display still warm and soggy inside. Coffee doesn't escape either. At some Dunkin' stores, it's brewed at dawn and left sitting for hours. Bitter, burnt, and sometimes topped off with water just to avoid wasting product. That fresh cup could actually be last night's leftovers. The sugar content is another punch to the gut. A caramel swirl latte can pack more sugar than a soda can, and if you add whipped cream, you're basically drinking dessert. Pair that with a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, which carries over half your daily sodium limit, and you've got a blood pressure spike before you even reach work. One lawsuit even accused Dunkin of misleading customers by calling frozen items fresh. The plaintiff? They ended up in the hospital after eating an egg sandwich cooked in a dirty microwave. Add in skipped cleaning routines, gloves going from trash bins to food prep, and even rats spotted behind counters at 3 a.m., and Dunkin starts looking less like breakfast and more like a gamble. Dairy Queen. Sweet treats with sour secrets. When you think Dairy Queen, you probably picture blizzards and soft-serve cones. But their breakfast? That's another story. Hash browns, burgers, and even fish are all fried in the same oil, sometimes for days without being changed. Imagine biting into hash browns that taste like last night's fish fillet. That grease doesn't just flavor your food, it sticks in your memory. Eggs don't come from shells here, either. They're poured from cartons, cooked on griddles often slick with old grease. Pancakes? Not fresh, just frozen discs, microwaved in steam bags until they're soggy and chemical tasting. A former worker admitted no one wanted to touch them, so they just dumped them, plastic wrap and all, into the steam cabinet. And sausage? A viral TikTok showed links sitting uncovered on prep tables overnight, then served the next morning as if nothing was wrong. Health inspectors have flagged rancid fryer oil, black flecks in food, and even rodent infestations where staff literally swatted mice off waffle irons before going back to work. Then there's the sugar bombs. A morning latte can carry more sweet syrup than your body knows what to do with, leaving you crashing hard before lunch. Employees have even admitted to reusing gloves between garbage and eggs. That's not just lazy, it's dangerous. So while the ads sell Dairy Queen as a friendly breakfast stop, the truth is, every bite is a lottery between sugar overload, old grease, and questionable hygiene. Popeyes. Yesterday's dinner. Today's breakfast. Popeyes is famous for its fried chicken. But when it comes to breakfast, you might not want to know the truth. That biscuit and gravy? It often starts with leftover chicken from the night before. Workers confess to tossing yesterday's fried chicken into gravy and calling it a morning special. The result? A chewy, reheated mess dressed up as comfort food. The grits? Just powdered mix with hot water, sometimes served lumpy and half-prepared. The gravy? Straight from a pouch, stretched thin with water until it's practically soup. And the biscuits? Frozen, thawed, and often served half-warmed. Cross-contamination is where it gets scary. Raw chicken is prepped right next to breakfast items. The same knives and gloves that touch raw tenders get used for biscuits, eggs, and sides. Inspectors have even found raw chicken juice pooling near waffle irons. And don't trust those warming lamps. They don't just keep food hot. They drip grease onto biscuits and trays underneath. Workers admitted those trays were rarely cleaned. Nutritionally, a single chicken biscuit meal can top 800 calories and over 1,500 milligrams of sodium. Basically, your whole day's salt intake in one sandwich. Add in bone fragments found in sandwiches, complaints of food poisoning, and inspectors flagging spoiled eggs from fridges left open overnight. And you've got a breakfast you definitely don't want to wake up to. Cracker Barrel. Country charm or frozen farm? For 50 years, Cracker Barrel has built its image on rocking chairs, wooden decor, and the smell of home cooking. But behind the gift shop, it's less country charm and more freezer farm. That beloved hash brown casserole? It doesn't come from Grandma's kitchen. It comes from giant freezer bags. Workers simply thaw it, dump it in pans, add some cheese, and call it homemade. Eggs are poured from jugs, not cracked fresh. Bacon and sausage are pre-cooked in bulk and held under lamps for hours. Even the handcrafted meatloaf and steak are vacuum-sealed, frozen, and reheated before serving. A health inspection once found green slime coating the pancake batter mixer, and staff told to just wipe it off. Calories and sodium pile up quick here. A country boy breakfast can easily hit over 2,500 milligrams of sodium before you even add biscuits and gravy. That's more than your daily limit before noon. And if you thought the kitchen was any cleaner, think again. Workers have reported finding rat nests behind warming cabinets, stale coffee beans left open until they turned sour, and new hires being thrown straight onto the grill with no real training. Cracker Barrel might look cozy, but once you know the truth, it feels less like a farmhouse meal and more like a reheated roadside stop. Waffle House. Chaos served all day. Waffle House has a reputation as the diner that never closes, but what also never closes is the chaos behind the counter. Hash browns come from frozen bags dumped into oil that can go days without being changed. Former cooks admitted the grease sometimes tasted like old cigarettes. Eggs? Poured from liquid cartons and cooked on greasy griddles using the same spatulas that just flipped raw meat. The waffles themselves can be downright scary. The batter sits in open buckets for hours, sometimes attracting pests. Health inspectors even found bleach residue on waffle irons, and a customer reported their tongue burned from the chemical taste. Cross-contamination is basically a given. Trash, raw bacon, and waffle batter often share the same prep surfaces. Gloves are reused, cleaning is rushed, and staff turnover means new hires are thrown into the fire with almost no training. Nutrition doesn't save the day either. A bacon, egg, and cheese waffle sandwich can top 1,200 calories and more than 2,000 milligrams of sodium. That's your full salt limit for the day in one sitting. McDonald's. The golden arches of shortcuts. McDonald's built its breakfast empire on the Egg McMuffin, but the truth behind that morning sandwich is a lot less golden. Those eggs? Many McDonald's locations don't crack them fresh. Instead, they squeeze liquid egg mix out of giant plastic pouches and steam it into shape. A former crew member said, "No shells, no cracks, just plastic bags and steam." Hash browns are frozen discs left under heat lamps, sometimes for an hour or more. Employees admitted they turn rubbery and chewy when left too long, but staff still serve them because tossing food looks bad on reports. And burritos? They aren't made fresh in the kitchen. They're rolled, frozen, and shipped nationwide. Your breakfast burrito is just a microwave job. One former manager even called it a cylinder of goo. Coffee doesn't get better. Some stores brew gallons in the morning and let it sit all day. Whistleblowers have spotted slime in coffee machines, only to be told to rinse it and keep pouring. Even healthy options aren't safe. A medium oatmeal with cream and sugar can pack more sugar than a candy bar. You think you're making a smart choice, but your blood sugar crashes say otherwise. A lawsuit once accused McDonald's of misleading customers about freshness. Workers say the same grill flips burgers at lunch and eggs at breakfast. Cross-contamination happens fast. Raw beef and egg mix sometimes share the same spatula, leaving grease, blood, and egg residue to mingle. Nutrition-wise, the numbers are shocking. A single sausage burrito carries nearly 700 calories and more than 1,500 milligrams of sodium. That's your entire daily salt limit in a single handheld meal. So while the ads promise fresh and iconic, what you're really eating is frozen, microwaved, and rushed. Food that's more about speed than safety. Sonic Drive-In, Tots of Regret. Sonic is all about fun, drive-in vibes and smiling commercials, but under the surface? It's a salt bomb soaked in grease. The fryer is the main problem. It handles everything, chicken strips, corn dogs, tots, without an oil change for days. Inspectors have flagged locations for rancid smells and black flecks floating in the grease. One whistleblower compared it to licking the bottom of a dumpster. The eggs look fluffy, but bounce back like rubber balls when you bite them. Workers said they dry out so badly they snap like plastic. Biscuits? Cardboard with a dash of salt. Breakfast burritos are another disappointment. Instead of hearty, they're soggy messes filled with greasy sausage bits and cheese that clumps like plastic. One customer even filmed a burrito leaking oil through its wrapper, like a science experiment gone wrong. The chaos behind the counter makes things worse. Trash bins overflow, syrup sticks to the windows, and flies swarm near prep areas. One former cook admitted scooping tots while a bag of rotten leftovers sat inches away. There are viral videos of customers biting into tots, filled with dark sludge instead of potato. Others showed grease dripping from ceiling vents onto grills below. Nutritionally, it's just as bad. A large order of tots has more than 1,700 milligrams of sodium, almost a full day's worth of salt. That doesn't even count the burger meat sometimes reheated from the night before and tossed into breakfast items. Gloves go from garbage cans to food trays. Spatulas are used for everything from bacon to soda cups, and inspections have caught grease-stained ceilings dripping onto food. Sonic isn't fast food. It's regret in a paper bag. Carl's Jr. Steak and Egg Lies. Carl's Jr. loves advertising giant, hearty steak and egg combos. But in reality, that steak is more filler than beef. It arrives frozen, chopped, and flash-fried until it's chewy and rubbery, like wet jerky pretending to be steak. Hash browns and tots face the same fate, fried in oil that's already been used for burgers and chicken strips. Employees admitted they often stretched the oil for days, until it turned dark, foamy, and rancid. The eggs come in liquid pouches, poured onto dirty griddles and flipped with burger spatulas. Former workers recalled finding bits of plastic from the pouches cooked into eggs. That's not breakfast, it's a health code violation. Health inspections have uncovered rodent droppings near fryers, cockroach shells in oil filters, and expired meat labeled for service. In one case, a Carl's Jr. franchise was fined over $150,000 after inspectors found rat infestations and spoiled products still being served. Nutrition panels don't save the day. A loaded breakfast burrito can pack more than 1,000 calories and 2,000 milligrams of sodium, your full day's salt limit in one wrap. Add in frozen chicken fried steak, dunked in rancid oil, and you're basically eating reheated regret. Behind the counter, the situation isn't much better. Raw meats, sauces, and eggs often share the same prep counters. Gloves get reused between trash duty and food handling. Floors stay sticky, and cleaning is more wipe it quick than scrubbing. Carl's Jr. promises hearty and bold, but what you're really getting is grease, shortcuts, and maybe a side of roaches. Wendy's, breakfast by marketing, not cooking. Wendy's is the new kid on the breakfast block, rolling out bold ads about croissant sandwiches and coffee. But what you actually get feels more like a marketing stunt than real food. The croissants? Frozen. Workers toss them straight from the box into ovens without proofing, often leaving them soggy inside. Eggs? Pre-scrambled patties steamed from plastic cartons, less like eggs, more like mousse. The cheese sauce isn't real cheese either. It's a processed product pumped full of stabilizers and coloring agents. Workers admitted containers were rarely cleaned, just topped off again and again until the lids clicked shut. That gooey cheese is more like a chemical soup. Potatoes are another trap. Instead of hash browns, you get seasoned wedges, fried in the same oil used for burgers and chili. Health inspectors have cited Wendy's for old fryer oil and rancid odors. The training is just as thin. Ex-employees said night shift burger staff were thrown into breakfast service without proper prep. Mistakes were everywhere. Raw chicken strips on egg prep tables, cold meat hitting grills meant for patties, and wraps sliding across unclean counters. Even the coffee gets phoned in. Beans are ground once in the morning, then sit in open bins. Workers admitted they added flavor syrups to mask the stale taste. That vanilla latte? Probably just old brew with syrup cover-up. Nutritionally, it's heavy. The Baconator breakfast sandwich hits over 800 calories and nearly 1,700 milligrams of sodium. Even the healthy fruit and yogurt parfait has as much sugar as a candy bar. Wendy's breakfast looks shiny in ads, but up close it's soggy croissants, chemical cheese, and staff making it up as they go. Subway, a chemistry set for breakfast. Subway sells Eat Fresh, but when it comes to breakfast, it's more like Eat Processed. Egg patties here aren't just egg. Tests have shown they're only about 50% egg. The rest is gums, stabilizers, and unpronounceable additives. They come in giant slabs, sit in steam cabinets, and sometimes stay there all morning before being slapped on your sandwich. Flatbreads and wraps aren't fresh either. They're frozen, thawed, toasted to hide the dryness, and often taste like wet cardboard. One worker even admitted soaking flatbread in oil just to make it chewable. Meats are pre-sliced, vacuum-sealed, and stacked by weight, not freshness. A health report once found trays of meat left at unsafe temperatures overnight. Sauces? Those squeeze bottles of mayo and vinaigrette rarely get washed. Staff just keep topping them up, creating little bacteria farms inside. And the horror stories don't stop there. Customers have spotted rats scurrying across prep counters. Staff brushed them off and went right back to wrapping sandwiches. Subway breakfast isn't fresh. It's a chemistry demo disguised as a sandwich. You think you're starting your day healthy, but you're really eating science experiments and stale bread. Jack in the Box. The shortcut, king. Jack in the Box loves to market its always-open convenience. But that convenience often comes at the cost of quality, and sometimes safety. The eggs here are almost never cracked fresh. Most locations rely on liquid eggs poured from jugs, cooked on greasy griddles that just flipped burgers minutes before. Former employees admitted they rarely cleaned the spatulas between meat and eggs, so your breakfast sandwich could carry a little extra seasoning from last night's burger grease. Tacos, which somehow get marketed as breakfast items at some locations, are microwaved straight from frozen. The shells go limp, the filling turns into mush, and the grease seeps straight through the wrapper. One whistleblower called them meat paste in a stale envelope. Breakfast burritos? A total shortcut. Pre-rolled, frozen, then reheated. Staff have said some burritos split open during microwaving, so they just rewrapped the soggy mess in foil and sent it out anyway. Health inspections have cited Jack in the Box for leaving food in warming drawers far past the safe holding time. At one location, sausage patties sat under a lamp for nearly 5 hours before being served. Another store was flagged for cross-contaminating raw chicken with hash browns in the same fryer oil. Nutrition doesn't help either. The loaded breakfast sandwich can top 900 calories and nearly 2,000 milligrams of sodium. Combine that with coffee that sits for hours in urns, and you've got a greasy, stale way to start the day. Jack in the Box promises, Jack has your back. But based on what's happening in those kitchens, it feels more like Jack has your stomach ache. Taco Bell. Breakfast innovation or food lab? When Taco Bell jumped into breakfast, it went all in with flashy ideas. Waffle tacos, breakfast crunch wraps, and hash brown stuffed burritos. Fun on paper, sure, but the execution tells another story. The eggs arrive frozen in giant plastic bags, thawed, and squeezed onto griddles. Workers confessed the eggs sometimes smell sulfuric, like rotten when the bags are opened. But instead of tossing them, managers told staff to cook it off. Hash browns are fried in oil that's also used for seasoned beef and chalupa shells. That means your potato patty often tastes like old taco meat and grease. Customers have complained about beef-flavored hash browns that left a weird aftertaste. And the syrup used for Cinnabon delights? It's not fresh. It's a chemical-heavy goo pumped from bags that can sit opened for days. One worker even filmed mold building inside a syrup tube. Inspections have nailed locations for rodents, grease buildup, and expired ingredients being repurposed. There's a reason Taco Bell's breakfast has been mocked as edible experiments. Nutritionally, the numbers are brutal. A single breakfast crunch wrap can carry over 700 calories, 40 grams of fat, and more sodium than a bag of chips. Pair it with a Cinnabon delight, and you've got dessert disguised as breakfast. At Taco Bell, breakfast isn't innovation. It's a chemistry experiment wrapped in a tortilla. Starbucks. Coffee first. Starbucks is known for coffee, but their breakfast food? It's basically an afterthought. Sandwiches, wraps, and pastries don't arrive fresh. They're frozen, shipped, and reheated in convection ovens. The smell you notice in the store isn't fresh baking, it's microwaved cheese and thawed bread. Egg bites, those trendy little circles, come pre-cooked in vacuum-sealed bags. Staff toss them in steam ovens, where they sometimes burst open and dry out. One former barista joked they were egg-flavored hockey pucks. Croissants and bagels aren't baked in-house either. They're frozen products thawed overnight, then warmed just enough to seem fresh. And that spinach feta wrap? It arrives shrink-wrapped and gets reheated until the edges burn while the center stays cold. Coffee itself doesn't escape shortcuts. Some Starbucks locations brew giant urns of Pike Place in the morning and let it sit for hours. Baristas have admitted topping off old pots with fresh coffee to hide the staleness. Sugar overload is another issue. A venti caramel frappuccino with whipped cream can carry over 400 calories and more sugar than a can of Coke, before you even add food. Pair it with a breakfast sandwich, and you've got a dessert disguised as your morning meal. Inspections have flagged Starbucks stores for mold in ice machines, expired dairy, and fruit flies around pastry cases. Customers have reported finding plastic bits in sandwiches, wax paper melted into croissants, and even undercooked egg bites that tasted raw. Starbucks markets itself as an upscale alternative to fast food, but, in reality, it's just frozen food dressed up with coffeehouse vibes. Panera Bread. The clean label. Illusion, Panera has built its reputation on clean food and cozy cafes. But the truth is far less wholesome. The eggs in your breakfast sandwich? Frozen patties reheated in convection ovens? The avocado on your toast? Pre-mashed and shipped in plastic tubs filled with preservatives. Workers confessed it often turned brown and watery, but managers told them to stir it and sell it. Pastries aren't baked fresh daily. Most arrive frozen, thawed, and reheated in batches. That fresh bagel could be days old, revived with a quick toast. Soups and sauces are shipped in vacuum-sealed bags, then reheated in hot water baths. The clean food promise is mostly marketing. A single breakfast sandwich can still pack over 1,000 milligrams of sodium and enough fat to rival a burger. And smoothies? They're blended with pre-sweetened mixes that push sugar levels sky high. Health inspectors have flagged locations for mold on cutting boards, spoiled dairy left in coolers, and fruit flies buzzing around prep stations. One former employee admitted that food dropped on the floor was often picked up, dusted off, and served. And the coffee? It's brewed in giant batches and left sitting for hours. Some workers admitted topping it off with hot water to stretch supply. So while Panera sells itself as a healthier, fresher option, in practice it's still frozen, processed, and loaded with shortcuts. It's not Grandma's Kitchen. It's just another fast food chain with better PR. IHOP, the pancake deception. IHOP calls itself the International House of Pancakes, but behind the syrupy smiles is a kitchen full of frozen shortcuts. The pancakes aren't made from scratch batter. They're poured from giant jugs of pre-mixed batter that sits out for hours. Employees admitted that when batter spoiled, managers told them to add more mix to dilute the smell. Eggs? Often poured from cartons, scrambled on griddles already slick with old grease. Hash browns are frozen bricks thawed on the grill until crispy on the outside, but raw inside. Syrup isn't fresh maple either. It's mostly corn syrup, dyed brown and flavored. One viral photo even showed mold growing inside an unopened syrup container. IHOP kitchens have been cited for dirty griddles, grease caked onto fryer walls, and even cockroach infestations. In some locations, staff said they had to swat bugs off the counters before serving plates. Calories stack up fast, too. A big breakfast sampler can top 1,200 calories and nearly 3,000 milligrams of sodium. Add in pancakes drenched in syrup, and you've doubled your daily sugar and salt in one sitting. And don't be fooled by endless pancakes. Those are often reheated from earlier batches, tossed back on the griddle for a quick flip, and served lukewarm. IHOP sells nostalgia, but what you actually get is processed batter. artificial syrup, and a side of grease. So, what did we learn from peeling back the curtain on fast food breakfasts? Whether it's McDonald's, Dunkin, or even Panera, the story is the same. Frozen shortcuts, chemical fillers, and questionable hygiene. The ads show steaming eggs, golden hash browns, and fluffy pastries. But behind the counter, it's plastic pouches, microwaves, and grease traps. Even the healthier brands like Starbucks and Panera are cutting corners, serving frozen food dressed up as fresh. The truth is, convenience comes with a cost. The cost is nutrition, the cost is freshness, and sometimes the cost is your health. If this video made you think twice about your next fast food breakfast, hit the like button. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss more eye-opening exposés. And in the comments, tell us, what's your worst fast food breakfast experience?